Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chef de Cabinet, dear program participants, dear families, dear faculty members, it is a pleasure and an honor to be here today. As you know, the Master in European and International Governance is a joint program of the Global Studies Institute and of the Faculty of Law, and more specifically of the faculty's Center for European Legal Studies. I speak here not only as Dean of the Law Faculty, but also on behalf of my colleague, Professor René Schwack, who is the director of the Global Studies Institute and who cannot attend this ceremony. So, on behalf of the GSI and also of the Law Faculty, I would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone present here tonight. But I would like also to say congratulations to all of you, dear program participants. You have followed a challenging, interesting, and demanding program with success. I am sure you enjoyed yourself following the classes, had fun taking classes, reading assignments, discussing issues with your professors and your classmates. But still, you had to work, and it was hard work. And to finish the program with success is quite an achievement, so congratulations to all of you. You are the second group to receive the MEIG diploma, and a third group has just begun its curriculum last month. This shows that the MEIG is already a well-established program. It also shows that the recipe for the program is a success. It is the result of a wonderful cooperation between the University of Geneva and La Genève Internationale, as it is called. We can be proud and happy about this cooperation. The MEIG also has the advantage to be a multidisciplinary program. It combines the study of European governance and the study of international governance in a well-balanced mix. This unique program has now new ambassadors, your group, the 2018 graduates. I congratulate you again, just as I thank your professors, the staff members, as well as your directors, Professor Christine Cadous and Nicolas Levra. And I wish you the best for your future, wherever your path will lead you. Thank you for your kind attention.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, MEIG professors, dear families and dear friends, and in particular, dear graduates. I am privileged and proud to open the graduation ceremony of the MEIG 2018. Today is a great celebration. So it's a celebration for all of us, and especially for you graduates tonight. Today marks the end of your university education within the program. It's a 10-month program, short but very dense, as some of you already mentioned it many times. The graduation ceremony is always an important moment for the graduates, for the families, for the friends, but also for us professors and directors of this new program. The day is also special, and you heard it by the Dean of the Law Faculty. You are the second promotion of this unique program, and I am quite comfortable and to say and underline that this program has no equivalent in other universities around the world. It's unique because it makes a bridge between the university of Geneva between the academic world and the Geneva International and the professional world. This is one of the features of the program. But another feature of this program is that it deals with multi-level rules of governance. And these multi-level rules of governance comprises the national level, the regional level, the European level, as well as the international level. And this is really one of the uniqueness of the program, where you have both European and international at the same time. What exists all around the university is either international or European, but never both at the same time, and with the possibility to discover the Geneva International, so the link between the university and the UN, where we have a very prestigious ambassador today, but also a bridge between the University of Geneva and the Brussels institutions. As you know, we have every year a visit to Brussels and to the different institutions, and it is always a very interesting and enriching experience. In this program, dear graduate, we aimed at providing you with a deep understanding of the political, economic, social, and legal aspects and of the different levels of governance. We hope that this diploma allowed you to acquire the basics and fundamentals in the rules of governance in the different areas with studies. In the area of human rights and migration, in the areas of peace and security, in the areas of health and environment, in the area of trade and development, and of course in the whole topic of the SDGs. So these are the main challenges you had to deal with during this 10-month program. Whether you are already in office, most of you are already in office, or likely to be very soon, and I have heard very good news from many of the present promotion of the MEIG, you are now better equipped, hopefully, to handle with everyday affairs and to overcome the difficulties you may have to face in your professional activities. With Nicolas Levrat, we wish you the very best for your career and look forward to hearing about your success story from all around the world. So first of all, and already now, congratulations to all of you in advance before the award of the diploma. So, now, to celebrate this event, we invited a distinguished special guest to give us his perspective on the challenges and opportunities for the UN in an age of uncertainty. Mr. CEJE-UNIGE has worked for over 30 years in the foreign government and international civil services. He is currently, as you know, serving as chef de cabinet of the Director General of the UN office at Geneva. He occupied this position before, from 2006 to 2011. Prior to this first stint as chef de cabinet, he served the director of UNOG in 2006 as senior political advisor. He was notably, I am not able to mention all the different important positions he had in his excellent career, but I'm just mentioning some of them. Otherwise, Google and Internet are very useful for this kind of information. So he was notably also senior advisor to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and chief of the Communication and NGO Partnership section in Geneva. Mr. CEJE-UNIGE holds a PhD in political science. He is vice president of the Swiss Forum for International Affairs. Many of you know this institution here in Geneva, and he is also vice president of the Geneva Diplomatic Club. Dear David, thank you for having accepted to be with us tonight. We very much look forward to listen to your presentation that will be followed by a question and answer session, so you can already prepare all your question and observation. So, dear David, thank you again for being with us, and I have the pleasure and honor to give you the floor. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction, Professor Kadus, esteemed faculty, excellencies, there's quite a few of you here, and most importantly, dear graduates. First and foremost, congratulations. This is a big day. You've worked very hard for this big day, and now you have the last hurdle or ordeal. You have to listen to me before you get your certificates. So it's a great pleasure to be here and a great honor. And it's also a great pleasure to be working with the MEIG program and with Professor Kadus and all of you. We have recently put this on a sort of legal basis, shall we say, and we'll be doing more of this. So my appearance before you today is a direct result of our cooperation, and it's a great honor to be cooperating with one of the most important and famous universities in the world, up in the top 1%. And I personally feel kinship to the University of Geneva because my son is a graduate of this university a few years before you. You're entering the job market, and this is a very, it takes different shapes, but it's a very solemn and very happy ceremony. In the United States, they call it commencement, and it's usually a joyful event with very motivational speeches. I hope my address will also be motivational, but I would also like to make it practical because you're entering a job market in an area which is writ large international relations, international governance, and as the title of our discussion today implies, it's an uncertain age. Why is it an uncertain age, and why this age is more uncertain than a different age before that? So as I try to present some of the main issues of uncertainty, if by the time I'm finished you want to change your profession to animal farming or apothecaries, I won't be surprised. I'd like to look at some key areas which I think are defining moments in this uncertainty. And these are the fact that the quote-unquote big players in this world, in today's landscape, are not on a good path. They are, we could even say, in an impasse with each other. Second is the increasingly dangerous security situation in the world. The proliferation of increasingly influential regional actors who do not, who march to their own drummer. And all this on the, against the backdrop of some megatrends. So if we start with the first one, the big players in an impasse, unfortunately, we don't see a realistic policy towards each other. The big players in today's world are reacting to each other on the basis of sort of very often knee-jerk reactions without a clear direction in which to proceed. That puts a very, very difficult atmosphere onto everything that's happening in the world. New challenges are being addressed by old methods, and these big players have found old comfort zones where things are reminiscent of past years, and you know whom you can call good, bad, etc. There are major challenges because of this to the established order, to the established and recognized borders. We have processes going on that were not expected, like the unforeseen challenges that the European Union is facing. We have the whole wider Middle East problems. We have an ascending huge empire, formerly empire, but in every sense of the word, able to act as a nation on the international map, which is China. We have the Korean Peninsula issues. We have issues with global commons, namely, if we look at the South China Sea. And throughout this, we see a glaring double standard and an absence of any structures. Why is this situation more dangerous and more unsettled than before? Was 1968 a better year than, for example, 2018, or was 1956 better? No, we couldn't argue that. However, as bad as it was, the bipolar system had structures, had its rules of the game, rules of engagement, and within those rules, there was a certain predictability. There is very little predictability nowadays. And this leads to the other issue, the security situation. It seems to be deteriorating and seems to be worse than in previous decades. The major nuclear powers are setting a very bad standard and bad example to the rest of the world, particularly in the sense of reliance on nuclear weapons. Instead of being the ones to say, listen, everybody, we've been there, we've done that, we've wasted trillions on nuclear weapons. They don't serve any purpose but to eat up funds and to scare each other out of our wits. So let's find a different way. Unfortunately, that's not what's happening. All the aspirant countries who would love to get a hold of a nuclear weapon are looking at the established and the biggest nuclear powers. They are relying more and more. And this is happening in a variety of ways, through new developments. Very dangerous, the upgrading of existing weapons, making them more precise, which means that the mental threshold for battlefield use becomes lower and lower, which is in the absence of a larger structural sort of rigidity, it becomes even more dangerous. Add to this the fact that those agreements, the legal body that has been painstakingly negotiated in the past 50 years, whether it's the NPT, which is under stress, the ABM treaty, which was totally thrown out the window, the ABM being the anti-ballistic missile treaty. And if there's an interest, I can elaborate on why it's a key, it was a key treaty. The INF Treaty, Intermediate Nuclear Forces, which was signed by President Reagan in 1987 and ratified in 88, and Gorbachev. That is also being questioned. There's a big question mark whether the START, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, will be continued. That means that the whole system of coordinates which existed and which underpinned the presence of these weapons on Earth is no longer there or is being weakened, and that is a very dangerous development. Add to this another very important factor, which is technological development in weaponry. There are weapons that are being developed now which don't even need a warhead, that will make nuclear weapons basically obsolete. This is hypersonic weapons. When you hurl a projectile that weighs a ton through the air at the speed of 7,000 to 8,000 kilometers per hour, it doesn't need a warhead. Where it hits, the damage there is significant enough not to even need a warhead. Look at lethal autonomous weapons systems. This is, we've all seen the movie Terminator. This is the Terminator prophecy, where machines will be created that will decide who dies and who lives. And these machines are not going to be, will not have human errors. They will be able to kill with great precision. Space-based weapons, that's another issue. With all this, the proliferation of major regional actors with major weapons and armaments adds a particular twist to the international scene, in that in the absence of the bipolar world, these major regional players no longer march to the two major drummers. They have their own foreign policies, they have their own military policies, and they pursue them. And the big powers that who are supposed to, or were in the past decades, providing quote-unquote adult supervision, are themselves in need of adult supervision now. This factor leads to some very, very bloody proxy wars, which we are all seeing, and phenomena that goes across borders, that are no longer internal conflicts have a tendency to spill over. And the factor of impunity is front and center here. Against this backdrop, or rather all this against the backdrop of megatrends, climate change, we all know the scary figures. If we don't, then we feel some of the climate change. Technological progress in general, the whole concept of the fourth industrial revolution. A lot of jobs will be lost. There'll be new jobs. So, I've been saying that in the UN, we need to have somebody sit there, go through the list of jobs that will be disappearing, see how it relates to the UN, and which jobs may be coming up, and we need to already think about training and retraining people. Demography, deep transformations in the demographic scene. Urbanization, by 2050, there are figures that 75% will be living in cities, which puts a whole different wrinkle on the sustainability of cities. Migration and refugees, I don't need to elaborate on that. And inequalities throughout the world, within and between countries, this famous figure that the 8 richest people have more wealth than 3.6 billion poorest on this planet. And all this mixed in with trust deficit, unfulfilled expectations, injustice, feeling that authorities no longer deliver, globalization of indifference, I would say. Are you still not wanting to go to animal husbandry? No? The sum total, I would say, in one sentence, would be a world of great asymmetries and fragmentation at all levels, political, economic, and security. To get back briefly to the bipolar world of old, after its dissolution, for 27 years, we have been moving to something different. Not only are we not there, it seems that we don't even know where there is. What is this that we are trying to reach? Is it a multipolar world? Is it, what is it? There is no concept, there is no blueprint, and there's certainly no consensus on how to reach that. The only, the closest is the framework agreements that were reached in 2015. So what are the what are the challenge? What are the opportunities for the UN? The challenges we can see. There are many more challenges, but I don't want to totally drive you into depression on this happy day. The UN is undergoing a great transformation, and also I must say since 1992, when before 92. It was said that the UN Secretary General was more like a mailman who would take a letter from the Soviets and take him to the Americans, and then take a return letter from the Americans and take him to the Soviets. In 92, there was this halcyon days of the New World Order. And even someone as experienced and as wise academic person and a very fine practitioner as former Secretary General Boutros Ghali, even he sort of believed that this was a new world and there was a new role for the UN. It didn't turn out quite that way. We have the United Nations facing a very tough transition to, again, like the rest of the world, we don't know which way. The member states, we urge them, we urge you, the member states who are here, especially ambassadors, to get together and rethink the landscape in which we're operating. The landscape we have as the underpinning for the UN organization is a landscape of 73 years ago. And it was an organization of winners in a very, very bloody war. Things have changed. The Secretariat of the UN, which is what we really mean when the UN is criticized and said that the UN needs to change, the UN needs to do better, the UN needs to be more streamlined. We're talking about the Secretariat. And here, I'd like to mention, particularly for our graduates, that in your future endeavors, whenever you hear or you read that the UN succeeded here or the UN failed there, always ask yourself the question, which UN is that person talking about? Is it the UN system, which incorporates all the specialized agencies? Is it the UN General Assembly, which is the member states, 193 member states? Is it the Secretariat, which is hired staff like myself, which is just one principal organ? Or is it perhaps the UN Security Council, the 15 members of the Security Council? Or more importantly, is it perhaps, in that particular analysis, the 5 permanent members of the Security Council? Without asking yourself that question, and without answering that question, understanding what is being said, you will never get the right response to your own question, and you won't be able to present correctly what you want to say, because that's a key issue with regard to the United Nations. And very often, this meddling of the different concepts brings to very incorrect statements, which are then very difficult to refute. It's a very different landscape for the UN staff. We are adapting. The Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, who's an incredibly experienced politician and a statesman, he has seen the need, even in the absence of this kind of guidance from the member states on the roadmap where to go. He has seen the need to perform some changes within the Secretariat. And the reform that he has introduced and is introducing with the help of member states and with their support, otherwise no reform will be successful, is three-pronged. It's peace and security, it's recalibrating the development system, and it's internal management. We here in Geneva are extremely pleased with all the directions of this reform process. Because Geneva, you all live and work in Geneva, you don't need to be reminded, but I'll do that anyway, that Geneva is the operational hub of the United Nations system. I was talking today to the new president of the General Assembly. She just arrived today for the World Investment Forum, and she was an ambassador here. She was ambassador in New York and also foreign minister of Ecuador, and she was telling me that having been ambassador in both places, the intensity of the work for ambassadors, and the ambassadors here may wish to contradict her, but she said that she was much busier with various delegations coming to Geneva than going to New York. In New York, yeah, you get every month Minister of Foreign Affairs or Deputy Minister. Here, it's all the specialized agencies. So you have ministers of health coming, you have the labor ministers, trade ministers, you've got environment ministers, you have, and then all the treaty bodies. Something is constantly in session. So the intensity is derived from the amount of organizations here. And if we count all the funds, programs, and specialized agencies in Geneva, international Geneva is bigger than international New York. And that is the reason why we have, international Geneva altogether, which includes, by the way, the academic institutions, it includes private enterprise, it includes NGOs, major NGOs that are based in Geneva, over 100. 100 international organizations, UN and non-UN, and over 400 major NGOs are based in Geneva. So we are a primary implementer, if you will, of the Secretary General's reforms. If we manage to, if the member states deliver on their promise to the Secretary General to support his reforms, it will be a much leaner and much more flexible organization. And if you, the member states, I'm addressing everybody, including the students, because you also represent the member states, those of you who are not working for the UN, although we work for all member states, if you all can domesticate the Sustainable Development Goals and make them part of your national legislation, thus ensuring their implementation, this world will be a much better place for our children and our grandchildren. With the rather bleak beginning, I'd like to end on this high note and take whatever questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this excellent presentation of the challenges and still opportunities for the UN. I'm just going to open the floor for questions, observations. There is a micro here. Yasmin is asking. If you can present yourself. Very good.
Thank you so much for the presentation. That was, especially the ending on a high note, that helped a lot. I'm Yasmin, a current participant of the MEIG, and I have a question on the tackling of the mega trends that you've mentioned, namely climate change and the fourth technological industrial revolution. So I think that we should have a shift in the way we manage and power our economic life. So what direction should we take on a governance level to facilitate this shift?
Would you like to collect some questions or
No,
take it
I'll
one after
answer.
other?
What? Sorry, could you repeat? What should we? A little bit louder. I didn't quite get that.
So what direction we should take to facilitate this shift from like change our economic life, basically?
Okay. I don't have any special recipe other than what is obvious, which is that we not only need to change our mindset, we also need to change the economic base of how we live and how we consume. And for that, a very important role goes to the private sector. How money is made, how services are provided, what kind of, and the third aspect there is technology. Technology needs to be able to provide the political leaders and the thinkers who are trying to change the mindset, but if you don't have the technology for it, you won't be able to change much. So I think those three components, if and when they come together, I think that will be, and it's not going to be, it's not something that can happen overnight. We need to move little by little, and I think the world is moving in that direction, but maybe not fast enough and not universally enough. Yes, in the back, please.
Just wait.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Nadia. I'm also a participant of current MEIG program. Thank you so much for giving a perspective on development of UN and also on the further challenges that we are hoping to tackle. I'm going to elaborate a little bit on the question of my colleague because I fully agree to the fact that we need to change the mindset, we need to adapt the institution, and we need to motivate the private sector to move forward with adaptation to the new technologies, new way to exploit energy, etc. However, it seems that it's one of the biggest problems actually to bring especially established private sector companies like corporations, etc., to the new world of third or fourth industrial revolution, depending on which scholar you read and you listen to. Do you believe that there is a space within UN organizations or maybe some new organizations needs to be created in order to facilitate the dialogue between private and public sector in order to enable actually, and also maybe governments, yeah, in order actually to enable the transition and to facilitate the shift with the current corporations towards the new industrial revolution? Because it obviously will not be easy. And if you believe that there is, how do you see it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Creating new organizations is always difficult, and in today's lay of the land and in today's political atmosphere, I'm not sure that any meaningful organization could be created fast enough to have an effect. But we already have some mechanisms, such as the Global Compact, which brings together over 100, I think, maybe more, major enterprises. But apart from that, brings together within the Global Compact sort of rules. But that's more of in the realm of good corporate citizenship. What you're referring to, I think, is inherent in the SDGs and the Sustainable Development Goals, because what we keep trying to glean from different experiences and to point towards, and especially in our dealings with the private sector, which is interested in closer collaboration with the public sector, is that being sustainable as a business is not just a laudable goal, it also makes good business sense. Because the world is changing little by little, people, just take a simple example, people go out and prefer to buy hybrid cars, for example. You know, not everybody is a caveman like me who drives a big SUV. So there are people who like to buy houses that are, you know, what is known in France as, or in French as MEIG, sustainable housing, etc. I mean, masses of examples, which point to the fact, as I was saying in answer to the previous question, that this process is ongoing. It just needs to catch on. And I'm not sure that creating some sort of a formal organization to do that would be that helpful. I think there are enough businesses that are forward-looking. There are enough international sort of players in the public sector who are forward-looking. And I can't predict with what speed it'll go, but I think that's the direction things are going. I don't see a satisfied look on your face.
Of course, it's
No, if you have a follow-up, please.
a large question, yes. Ljubljana? People.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very insightful. Will from MEIG program, so I'm going to follow the questions for my two colleagues. Given that the world today is gearing towards more fragmentation among nations, as well as more economic and financial integration, and rebalancing towards Asia-Pacific or the Indo-Pacific region, how does the UN consider rebalancing representation, not only in terms of its staff, but also in terms of its facilities and premises, towards a region that accounts for the world's, for most of 60% of the world's population? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent question. And that's a question that goes actually to the heart of part of the reform effort of the Secretary General. The landscape of how the UN is the UN Secretariat is situated evolved over the last decades. Also, you referred to the staff representation. That too is a process which went in spurts. After 1945, there was a certain number of countries that were there at the signing in San Francisco, and then come the 60s. And in the 60s, there was a huge decolonization process, which added a large number of countries. And then at the end of the 80s and 90s came the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which added another 15 republics. Well, it added 13 because 2 were members of the UN from the start. And what happened was that the quotas, and what is a quota? A quota is a UN, basically bureaucratic term, within the Secretariat, where there is a median quota where a country is well represented, or it is underrepresented or overrepresented. And so a number of countries found themselves to be underrepresented or not represented, because by the time some countries came about, got their independence, there was a freeze, which is a case with me. I come from Georgia, and Georgia was never a member of the UN, and we needed to have somebody. So yours truly became the first to enter on the Georgian quota, and similar with other countries. Now, this needs better management. It should not continue to be on an ad hoc basis, and it shouldn't be happening, in a way that is not managed. It has to be managed. The Secretary General's reform actually refers to this issue in a number of ways. One is the staff geography, where the staff come from. The other is a gender balance, which the Secretary General has already achieved in his office on the 38th floor, as we refer to the Executive Office of the Secretary General. But there's also a different approach, which is how to, delegate more to the UN offices in different geographic areas, but more importantly is how to create new hubs of UN service in places where there are less or non-represented, which is the first step towards changing the geography of how the UN works. There is a number of factors that enter into play here, because member states are trying to get every new organization that emerges, to come to their duty station and so on. So it's something that needs to be managed better. But there's one thing that I want to highlight here, one problem, which is that the international civil service, or the me and other UN staff members who are hired by the Secretary General, who himself is hired by the member states as the chief operating officer or the president, then the Secretary General has the right to hire us to help him do what the member states ask him to do, give him mandates to do. The Secretary General acts as a neutral manager. That is why the Secretary General requires dues of the member states to come on time, to have the budget that was presented, and to then apportion the budget in an impartial way as he, as the manager, or maybe she in the future, has in his mind to apportion. Now, when every 2 years, now starting next year, every year, we have had and will most likely continue to have calls for and cuts to the UN regular budget, the UN Secretariat regular budget. What that means is that the Secretary General has less and less room for maneuver to apportion these funds in a balanced, what's the term? In a neutral manner, where he and the management seem to see the need. What happens is, very often, those who argue for the cuts and who manage to get their arguments through, then offer extra budgetary funding. And then they say, oh, by the way, I'd like you to spend this money on this particular project. Oh, and did I mention that I have an excellent person to run this project? So this narrows the ability of the Secretary General to widen and diversify the international civil service. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Yes, way in the back. Oh, no, Angel has been
the
trying to, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for being...
Either closer, or I think it doesn't work.
Thank you. Now?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you for being here with us tonight. We appreciate that. You mentioned about very, very well to all the reform processes that are undergoing in the UN. But in our program, they taught us very well that the UN consists of 3 pillars, which is peace and security, development, and human rights. And here in Geneva, we have presumably the most important organ for human rights in the United Nations system, and you also have quite significant experience in the field of human rights. What is your opinion on the Human Rights Council and the human rights system as a whole? Does it need a reform there as well, having in mind the recent withdrawal of the United States and the recent tensions in the Human Rights Council? Thanks.
Thank you. Since I've been brutally honest with you up to now, I will continue to be so, because I can give you the pink and rosy version, but the issue is that as many reforms as you want to create, human rights as a concept is politicized. And so is the Human Rights Council, as was the Commission for Human Rights. It is the same disease that afflicts the Security Council in New York. So you can reform all you want, but if one side is going to be using human rights as a hammer, and the other side is going to be using it as a hammer to hammer the side with the bigger hammer, in places that it hurts, then you have the same situation, whether you want to call it the Human Rights Council, etc. The fact is that human rights are universal. One of the reasons why the SDGs don't have a special SDG dedicated to human rights is because human rights go through everything. And for that reason, human rights should not be a tool to use against a group of countries or one country. It should be universal, and let's keep to that. It's up to the member states, just as it is in the Security Council, where we cannot even speak anymore about the P5. We're obliged to speak about the P3 and the P2. It's one of the problems that I was talking about. There is this fracturization political, and we thought, my generation, when we were, as you, learning and reading and watching, that the exchange, I don't know who of you remember the exchange between Ambassador Adlai Stevenson and Ambassador Zorin of the Soviet Union during the beginning of the Cuban Missile Crisis. We thought that was the sharpest exchange in the Security Council. My word, what an exchange. It was Ambassador Stevenson saying, is the Soviet Union deploying nuclear-tipped missiles on the island of Cuba? Answer my question. Don't wait for the translation. And Zorin said that you sound like a teacher with a didactic sort of approach to things. And we thought that was a big, huge, blow-up. If you listen to the Security Council exchanges now, you cringe. It's missing four-letter words. Everything else is there. So when you have this kind of a confrontation at such levels, it's very difficult to get business done. So that's the same problem with the Human Rights Council and the human rights concept. I think much better work on human rights is being done in the treaty bodies, where you have experts from different countries in their own right who discuss things as professionals and come to some sort of agreements and conclusions. Thank you.
We can take only one more question. So
Why?
Otherwise, we will stay.
I'm just getting warmed up.
I see. I think you will come much more often to the university. And we can
I think we have
repeat
one
this.
of the...
Yes, one of the graduates.
Thank you very much for your speech, and I would like to thank the University of Geneva for creating such opportunities to create cooperation with other entities to address international issues. I really like the theme of this ceremony, challenges, opportunities, and uncertainties. But I would like to replace age of uncertainties with age of division. And in this context...
Sorry, uncertainty with division or opportunity with division?
Age of uncertainties with age
division.
of division. Yet these days we have more conflicts, more division between nations and states themselves. And we have more crises, whether natural or man-made. So at this level, where do you see the role of the United Nations on next to face challenges and address opportunities in the time of division, where I do believe that to address uncertainties requires more cooperation and more unity? Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's probably the key question of the evening. I have to predicate what I answer by saying that the United Nations organization is an organization of member states. It was created by the member states in order to have a, if you will, a safe haven where they can discuss things and find solutions to problems that they were not able to find solutions to outside of the UN framework. So it is really up to the member states how they want to use the mechanism that they created. Right now, let no member state, be miffed. Member states, in their mass, are abusing the United Nations. They're using it for scoring points against each other in the Security Council. They're using it to score points against each other in the Human Rights Council. By the way, as a footnote, Geneva is, in its mass, it's a little bit safer in this sense because it has a lot of technical agencies. And the technical agencies get down to business. They don't have the luxury of throwing mud balls at each other. What the UN can do, the UN is, believe me, I'm not one to say that the UN Secretariat is spotless. No, we have to really get our act together. We have to, very often there are situations where we make mistakes. We make mistakes either because of, inattention or low professionalism sometimes, or sometimes thinking that we know what the member states' reaction will be to this, and especially of the large member states, so let's not go there, although you had to go there. And this textbook example of this is the situation in Rwanda, because it was a time when the United States was not in an appetite for any international, crises or involvement. Black Hawk had been down just recently. There was problems, in Haiti, etc. So our management at the time thought that, well, this is so. The cables coming from Canadian General Romero Dallaire were basically screaming that there is something terrible going to happen. But there was no adequate reaction to them. So that's a textbook example of how the UN Secretariat messed up. But we cannot act if we are not authorized by the member states. This is why in the same context I was backstopping from my colleague. I was a human rights officer, a desk officer, and I was backstopping my colleague who had gone on leave at the end of March. He told me, well, the peace agreement has been signed, nothing should happen. Can you backstop my area, the Great Lakes of Africa? I said, sure. We used to do that, for colleagues. And 6th of April, the president's plane is shot down and all hell breaks loose. And, I'm sitting there reading cables where 30,000 people per day were massacred and thrown into Lake Kivu. So, and in that situation, the Secretariat was not able to do anything really powerful because the member states had to decide, the member states of the Security Council. And as backstopping this gentleman, I used to go to the Security Council meetings. And Boutros-Ghali, Secretary General Boutros-Ghali, went down there and said, please, members of the Security Council, give me 5,000 heavily armed troops in order to deploy the troops and stop the carnage. And instead of saying, Secretary General, we'll give you 25,000 heavily armed troops, go in and get the job done as soon as possible, for a week where each day 30,000 people were being killed. For a week, the discussion in the Security Council was, well, yeah, but who's going to provide the transport means? What is the sunset clause? When are these troops going to come out? And who's going to provide the troops anyway? You see, so the UN did actually, once it broke, we tried, the Secretary General tried, but there was no response to support. A very similar situation with Syria. I mean, I was talking to some local intellectuals at a luncheon the other day, and we were talking about the conditions for the UN service here and so on. And when I sort of mildly complained about traffic in Geneva and so on, she said, yeah, but the UN can do nothing in Syria. You're so helpless. And so I had to explain to her, Madam, it's the member states. First of all, unless one side or the other is unable or unwilling to fight, the fight will continue in any conflict. And as long as there's somebody behind one side or the other side, it'll continue. So you can have 10 Staffan de Misturas and Kofi Annans, nothing's going to happen until the member states who are engaged, close or far, decide to stop it. Sorry, it's facts of life.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank you.
again for this excellent.
I don't know about that.
Thank you for this excellent presentation and for the discussion and the insight assessment as far with the final words on Syria, which really represent the current challenges for the UN. Now, let's move on the important moment for the distribution of the diploma, so a much more celebration type of discussion and moment. And we will start with the award of the MEIG Prize, Geneva International 2018, which is a prize to the top student who obtained the highest average in the program. So the prize is sponsored by Baume & Mercier, probably known by all of you here in the room, and will be handed over by Mrs. Nathalie Schwartz. Please join me here on the stage. Thank you. Have the floor.
Thank you. Maybe shorter, right? Thank you. So good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight with you today, and it's also an immense pleasure because I could see on your face your smile, and it's easy to understand that you probably have spent, of course, hard time, but probably you also have spent some of the best moments of your life, isn't it? Yes, good. So like the MEIG program, Baume & Mercier, and in particular fine watchmaking, embodies immutable values. We strive for excellence while never compromising on quality. My wish for you is that you continue to be passionate about your career and your personal achievements. In the name of Baume & Mercier, congratulate you and wish you all a lot of success. At Baume & Mercier, we also have a motto called, we say, life is about moments. And I think the time of your graduation is definitely one of them, a decisive, memorable moment. And we have the pleasure tonight to offer a timepiece to the best student of this MEIG program. So I don't know if I announce it or you want to announce
please
it.
go
Okay.
ahead, go ahead.
So it's a lady, and the name is Ona Sola. So please. Please. Come here. have a nice celebration tonight. And santé.
Now we shall proceed to the award of the diplomas, to the whole promotion. And the names will be read by my colleague Nicolas Levrat, assisted by Angela Simondetto of the Secretariat of our program. So you will hear your name and just join us to get your diploma.
So, dear students, for the last time, then it'll be over. Congratulations in advance. Now we're getting to the heart of this ceremony. And by the way, you've heard that, yes, we live in some sort of a chaotic and scary international situation, a time of uncertainties. But it's also a time for great opportunities for newcomers, for creative and innovative practitioners. And we hope that we have provided you during this master program with the skills and the tool to seize all the professional opportunities that are open to you. I also want, just before proceeding to the distribution of diploma, to thank UNITAR, with which we had the first edition of this master program. And now, let's get down to the serious business. Award of diploma, and we'll do it by alphabetical order. So the first one will be Mr. Hamad Al-Thani. Then we have Mrs. Fatima Al-Zahabi. And now, Mr. Ali Deeb. Circulation issue always in Geneva, even in this room. Mr. Rodolphe Derrien. Mr. Hussein Dogan. Mr. Angel Drive. Mrs. Amanda Jacot. Mr. David Lahutte. Mrs. Claudia Lovell. Mr. Imad Maisari. Dr. Azad Navumukundan. And now we'll finish with three ladies. Mrs. Blessing Omhoage. Mrs. Ona Rosalilsa Sola. And last but not least, Mrs. Marina Viluendas.
Okay, thank you very much. There is only one person missing from the promotion tonight, is Eugenia Koronkova, but she is abroad. But of course, she gets also her diploma, and she must be congratulated as well. And now the tradition is to give the floor to the graduates of the 2018 promotion. So please, both of you, come here and just a couple of words as it is foreseen in the tradition.
What time is it?
Thank you. Okay, this is very intimidating, actually, and I'm very honored to be here tonight. Thank you so much to Madame Cadous, to Mr. Levra, to the persons of UNITAR also for this 6 months I spent with you. And no, I just want to say that one of the main strengths of this program is really its diversity, and we are a very small group, very diverse in age, origins, and backgrounds, and it has been really enriching, humanly speaking. And I just want to go back to the presentation you made. It's true that it's very difficult to get cynical about many things, and even if I speak to a lot of people of my age, we sometimes feel like we cannot paddle against a huge current, and it's very difficult to change how it is, to change the system. But I think this program has also made me understand that you must have an insight into it and really understand how it works from the inside in order to make some changes. So thank you so much, and I wish you all the best to all of you. Thank you.
So, Excellencies, dear Mr. Shikvaidze, dear Mr. Dean, dear directors, Mrs. Cadous, Mr. Levra, I'm honored to take the floor as class representative of the second edition of the MEIG program. As representative, I have had the opportunity to study with and get to know this remarkable group of individuals. We have come a long way since January. We have created friendships and bonds that I know will last for many years. I'm happy to be celebrating with each of you tonight. Together, the 2018 class represents a multicultural and multilingual group of highly talented individuals. The success of this group was probably to be expected. After all, we have both a blessing and an angel in this group. It has been a pleasure to represent this class, and it's clear that the depth of this program is as much about studying the complexity of international governance as it is about to getting to know each other. Although this evening marked the end of our studies, it is also the beginning of important step in the next phase of our lives, the important task of facing most of the world's most complex issues. Among our class members, we were working to protect human rights, saving lives through demanding, contributing to global economic trade, improving health outcomes, and much, much more. I challenge each of us to apply lessons learned in this course toward creating a more just, equitable, and peaceful society. We each have a unique talent to offer the world. Now is our time. So Anna and I would now like to take a moment to thank our directors and the person involved in this program. So we think about Philippe, Melanie, Mrs. Cadus, and Professor Levra, if you won't mind to come in front. And we would like to thank you, Mrs. Cadus, personally, for your knowledge and keen insight and dedication to this program. And all the students are very thankful for your efforts. And we also like to thank Ljubljana Gosp Server. I don't know where she is, please. Thank you, Ljubljana, for your patience and for helping us on track and focus. And we know that someday it was not an easy task. Finally, to my fellow classmates, I want to congratulate each of you and wish you success in your journey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for these kind words in the name of Nicolas Levra, of UNITA with Philippe Aubert and Mélanie Cremona. So thank you for all these nice words. Now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear graduates, I would like to congratulate you once more for this new diploma in your education career, and now you are open to the professional life. I also want to take the opportunity to thank again all the participants, their families, their friends, and UNITA team for the cooperation during the 2 years of the program, and of course the MEIG team at the University of Geneva with Ljubljana, Halil, Angela, Paula, and Rita. So thank to all of you, without whom this celebration will never have been possible in these conditions. So thank you a lot to everybody. A special thank to our distinguished guest speaker of tonight. Thank you again, Mr. Chikvaidze, for being with us. With these words, I declare the MEIG ceremony 2018 closed, and I will ask the graduates to come here for the final group photo, and all the speakers, of course, and UNITA team as well, for this last photo, and I hope that you can encourage all these people during the group photo. Thank you all for participating to this event.